Am I delusional in thinking that President Trump has done enough in a rising American economy to get a second term in 2020 if he chooses to run?
Lydia.
Oh, God, I hope not. I always thought that Trump would either be impeached or get 2 terms. But I think that with the Mueller investigation coming down on him and the very risky moves that he's taking to impede that investigation, most recently with the tweets that he's fired off against the Mueller investigation.
That's a tweet, not an actual impeding. He hasn't sacked Mueller.
That's right.
He's talked about it, but...
Yeah, he's talked about it, but...
The Republicans in Congress would not stomach it.
Yes, so to my point is that I think that provocation by him is starting to get the rise out of congressional Republicans finally, because they've stomached a lot from him, and I think that this might be the red line that does it. So if he does that provocation and he does make any moves against the Mueller investigation, that could be the beginning of the end for Trump.
Tom, that was about Trump's economic success or otherwise, and whether that creation of jobs, which was already happening, of course, under the previous administration, but has continued and may get better. The economy may go through a bit of a golden era. Could Trump come back for a second term on the back of good economic...
Well, given how so many of us wrote him off time and again in 2016, you can't write him off again. I mean, the reality is that the American economy is booming. It's a 3% annual growth right now. I think the average growth rate during the Obama years was 1.6%. Now, admittedly, that was in the aftermath of the global financial crisis. But we've got 17-year low unemployment, 13-year high manufacturing. There's a consumer confidence that's quite evident in America. The Wall Street has been up, notwithstanding some recent downfalls. So there's good reason to be bullish about the American economy. The other point to bear in mind is that Trump's political base remains very strong. His approval ratings are pretty low. They're only about 40, 42, 43%, which incidentally are higher than Malcolm Turnbull's in this country, Theresa May's in Britain, and Angela Merkel's in Germany, and I suspect Trudeau as well in Canada, which is quite extraordinary. It tells you a lot about the state of Western democracy.
Trade tariffs helping that?
No, I think the trade tariffs are a bad thing, although bear in mind this is Trump resonating with the core base. I mean,
that's what I was asking.
The white working class folks who voted for Trump in those Rust Belt states, in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, they usually vote for Democrats. Here they voted for Trump and they got what they wanted. They wanted tariffs on Chinese steel and aluminium. It's bad public policy, but it's good politics. So that resonates with a lot of folks who are anxious about the state of the economy. They haven't seen a real wage increase in 30 years. So Trump has his problems with the Mueller investigation, no question about that. Lydia is right. Although it's important to bear in mind that at this stage there is still no evidence to prove any collusion between the Trump campaign and the Kremlin in 2016. But don't write the Donald off.
Yeah, Mark.
Well, assuming the Mueller investigation doesn't bring him down, and I'm not as expert as Lydia and Tom on that, then I think a critical question is going to be how the Democrats responded, because I think their campaign at the last election was poor. I think they took for granted those 4 states in particular that Tom referred to, and their ability to get off the canvas, run a strong candidate and a strong campaign is going to be critical to this question.
We'll get an indication at the midterm election.
That's right. Also critical will be whether or not the promises, the very significant promises of utopia that Donald Trump made to those communities that were doing it tough in the post-GFC world, are doing it tough with the impact of decarbonisation in parts of the economy, whether those promises are able to be fulfilled or whether they're seen by those communities as having been false promises. So I think to a very significant degree this will depend on the way in which the Democrats regroup after a devastating loss in 2016.
So, Paul, I suppose it's a big question for the government, because you'll have to decide if you retain power, whether you could cope with another 4 years of Donald Trump.
Well, it's the government's job to deal with the President of the United States, whoever the people of the United States choose. And you know, Malcolm Turnbull's been doing a very effective job of that, a very effective job. Just look at the fact that President Trump specifically excluded Australia from steel and aluminium tariffs.
You think they've got a lot in common?
No, what I think is that a lot of hard work has been done on a relationship that is enormously important for Australia. You know, frankly, at the end of the day, it's a luxury or an indulgence for members of the Australian government to be commentating on what might happen in the next US election. That's a matter for the American people. The job of the Australian government is to do our best to maintain a strong and effective relationship with the country that is our most important security partner and one of our most important economic partners. And Malcolm Turnbull and the Turnbull government have been doing a pretty effective job of that.
Alice, I'll give you the final word.
And make sure that Greg Norman's on speed dial so that he can help you out with your negotiations, most probably.
If it's in Australia's national interest, then yes. Yes. Yes.
No, you should go golfing with the Donald and try and talk his ear, Paul.
If it is in Australia's national interest, then yes, we will use whatever help we can find.
I think that it's all about viable alternatives. So whether there's an alternative within the Democrats or the Republicans, I think the world's still waiting for that Love Actually press conference moment where someone, stands up publicly and actually kind of confronts him face to face and tries to, take him on and give, it's all about alternative government. So if there's no one that's, providing a good option, then of course they're going to stick with Donald Trump. That's kind of how the American system works. And, thank God we have a different system here because I wouldn't want to be running against him.
I thought it'd be in more danger from Muller than a Love Actually moment.
Look, it's not a great film, but I think you should watch it, Tony, because maybe you could learn some stuff about politics.
Well, thanks very much, Alice. That's all we have time for tonight.